Welcome to this Frontline Advocates briefing. It's wonderful to see you all here with us today. So before we kick off today's session, I would like to acknowledge that we're meeting today on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and pay my respect to their elders past and present. I'd also like to pay my respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people on this call today. Just for a bit of housekeeping before we start, I'd like to please observe inclusive meeting practices in this session, and this means to keep your microphones on mute unless you're speaking. Raise your hand to ask a question and speak one at a time and say your name before you speak, and if possible, keep your videos on so that people can lip read if needed. And also please be mindful of the Auslan interpreters on the call with us today. So today we're going to hear from two speakers, and I encourage you all to bring your best selves and engage with everyone and ask questions and use the session well. So our first speaker for today is Carol Stewart from Villamanta Disability Rights and Legal Service, who will take us through the Respect at Work, Prevention of Workplace Sexual Harassment Education section. So thank you for coming, Carol. Over to you.
Okay. Thanks, Melissa. Yes, my name's Carol Stewart. I'm a lawyer at Villamanta. I'll just give you a quick background. This Respect at Work came about because we had various situations with workers in AGAs and things happening there, so we were asked to provide some sort of programs for them. But it's applicable to everyone in the workplace, really, but it's designed really for those workers and delivered to those workers. So that's really all. Can I have the first slide, or maybe the second slide, I think it is. Okay, so what's Respect at Work? It's making sure that no one makes you feel uncomfortable, and making sure you treat others the way you'd like to be treated, or feel safe and respected at work, and knowing what is right and wrong thing to do at work. Next slide, thanks. Okay, inappropriate behaviour, sexual behaviour, jokes about sex, don't stare at someone all the time, showing someone something that is rude on your phone or computer. It can just be what you think is a joke, but it's not funny to them. Touch someone when they don't want to be touched. This could be touching someone on the bum, which you think again is a joke, but it's not a joke. And it could be hugging people who don't want to be hugged. Send someone a mean text message. Text messages are a bit fraught with danger because what's mean to someone is not mean to somebody else. Commenting on the clothes someone's wearing, emailing someone to ask them on a date. That could be acceptable depending on how well you know them, and using swear words when there's a few people around at work. Some people don't appreciate that, so you need to be careful what you say and when you say it. Next slide, please. All right, here's some examples. Sally and John are friends. They have lunch together every day. After lunch, John shows Sally a picture of a naked person on his phone. Sally, of course, doesn't appreciate this, and it's possible that John thinks that this is okay, but it's clearly not okay. David and Sonia are at work together. David tells Sonia he thinks her skirt makes her legs look very sexy. Totally not appropriate. Thelma hugs her colleague Trish all the time. Trish doesn't really like this, but doesn't quite know how to stop Thelma doing it, but she actually feels very uncomfortable. There will be a video later, and I'll warn you, it's got very bad acting in it because it's been made by Villamanta staff. So that just gives us a few examples of these sorts of things. Next slide, please. Okay, what can you do if these things happen? If you feel safe enough, you can just ask the person, go and say, look, I don't really like that. Can you please stop it? Sometimes that's a bit hard to do. You can ask to talk to them on their own, tell them what you don't like and what they are doing, and ask them to stop it. They may not even realise that what they did was upsetting you. I recently spoke at an ADE, and the issue was staff being hugged by a couple of the participants, and the staff didn't like it, and the participants had no idea that they didn't actually understand that they didn't like it. So there was a bit of a stalemate. The hugging went on. People were not comfortable, and all they really needed to do was have a talk to the people and say, I don't like that. And it may have stopped. Hard to know, but I think in that circumstance it probably would have. So next slide, please. Thanks. So if that doesn't work and it can't be resolved just between friends or colleagues, people are working together, you can talk to your manager, and this is sort of escalating it a bit. If you're comfortable with your manager, you can get time off work if you need it, if you feel like you really don't want to be there because you've sort of tried to talk to the person and that hasn't worked, and now you feel really uncomfortable in their presence, so you might need some time off. They might help you fix the problem and stay safe and respectful at work. They might giving examples of what happened can help your workplace fix the problem. So don't say, oh, I didn't like what they did or I didn't like what they said. You're probably going to have to be a bit specific about what it was that happened that you didn't like and was not appropriate. There might be a different person that you need to speak to, like HR. In some of the larger organisations, there's HR. If there isn't, it'll be your manager who can direct you. And also, if there is another person that you might need to speak to, that directs you to the right person. Sometimes people are a bit afraid. It depends on who your manager is, I think. Hopefully, most of the managers in workplaces now understand that they need to be approachable about things like this. Can I have that next slide? Thank you. Sometimes if it's just too hard, you could get someone else, a friend or family member, to talk to the manager about what's happened. Family members or friends are perfectly acceptable. You're always entitled to have somebody else with you, just as a support or to actually speak for you. Nobody is going to stop you from doing that. And if they do, I think you've got a bigger issue about your workplace. Or you can talk to the workplace about what happened and ask them to fix it. So you can do that together. So you don't feel that it's just you and no one believes you. You've got somebody with you. I mean, I'm not talking about the people here, but I'm talking about people in the workplace where these things have happened and you need to take it up to the manager, but you're a bit scared about going to talk to them on your own. Next slide, please. Okay, what to do if this happens at work? You can talk to Villamanta, a legal service, and you can do this before you talk to your workplace. So you don't have to wait and just go and talk to the manager. You can get some advice beforehand. Depending on how serious the situation is, then you might decide, okay, I need some advice about the way I should go about this and what is right and what is wrong, and before you talk to your manager. So we'll talk about Villamanta's services later. Next slide, please. Your manager could do some of these things. They could just ask the person to stop the behaviour. Sometimes, though, you may feel very nervous about this. I'm talking about you, but I'm sort of talking about people in the workplace that this is happening to. So I'm not saying you personally. You might be nervous about the manager talking to the person because then you have to go to work with them. So, tell the manager, you feel a bit worried about what might happen, and how that can be handled by you and the workplace to stop any further bad interactions between the people. The manager can tell the person if they don't stop, they might not be allowed to work there anymore. They could move the person to another area of work away from you, and that might be possible, but in a lot of ADEs, they're small, they're regional, and there may not be another possibility to move into a different work area. And occasionally these things are really serious and they can speak to the police. That opens up a whole really difficult area. The police are not necessarily the first call here, but if it's a rape allegation or something really serious, the police could be involved. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but it has happened. So it's worth bearing in mind that if someone comes to you and say, there's been a serious sexual assault, then you understand that really they're going to have to report it to the police. They don't have to, but if they wish to, they need to be supported to do that. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, these are the important things that can happen. They can applications can be made to the Fair Work Commission for a stop harassment order, requiring the person who's doing it to stop whatever it is they were doing. Fair Work Commission is not very difficult to work with, but they can do this. Now, this is more likely to happen in private enterprises, I think, where stopping a harassment order means that really the workplace has a role to play here, that they have to make sure that they're doing everything they can to stop the harassment. You can't just keep on someone who's been named as a perpetrator and allow them to just keep doing the things that they've been doing and hope that it goes away, because it won't go away. So Fair Work Commission is there to make sure that things are done to stop it. Complainants or all of this is about someone on their behalf can do this. If the person's got a disability and they don't feel comfortable or that they are able to make these complaints, someone else who knows them or family member can do this on their behalf. They can file a complaint, or lawyers or advocates can file a complaint about sexual harassment with the Human Rights Commission, because it's a breach of your human rights to be put in a situation when this is happening to you, or the Equal Opportunity and Human Rights Commission, Victoria. So either one's Commonwealth or one's state. The other thing that can happen is if there's an issue and you don't feel safe at work, you can call in WorkSafe. WorkSafe will come and they will talk to everyone in the workplace and ascertain, okay, these are the things that have happened here. These are the things that have made the worker feel unsafe and unhappy at work. So what can be done to fix those if they haven't already been dealt with just internally? Nobody really likes WorkSafe turning up, but they can come and they can be quite helpful. employers don't like it because the implication is they haven't done their jobs properly. So, but just bear in mind that WorkSafe can come and they can have a good look at how things work, and they may come up with a suggestion that, if you just do that, which is different to what you have been doing, the problem might be resolved. So you can make these applications all together. You can do the Human Rights Commission and the Victorian Human Rights Commission at the same time if you want to. Sometimes these commissions are a bit slow to act, but and so it depends which one you choose to go to, but you can do them at the same time. Not entirely certain why you would, really. In Victoria, it's probably the Victorian one. What happens at commission hearings is that there'll be like a mediation. All the parties and any advocates or lawyers or whatever they choose to have with them come, and it's like a round table discussion, and hopefully the mediation will resolve the issue between the parties, hopefully. And they and make suggestions as to what can happen going forward. Next slide, please. Okay, so they can do that. They can make orders. They consider. That's the Fair Work Commission. They have to be satisfied that there has been sexual harassment and that there's a risk that harassment will continue. That's a bit of a sticky issue because, okay, you can be satisfied that the person was sexually harassed, but it's more difficult to show that it's likely to continue or it will continue. That's a bit of an unknown. The other problem is this has happened before. We've given advice to people before about this. There's a difficulty for people with disabilities about being believed, and there's also a difficulty that's come up for us where the person who was sexually harassed had a disability, and the person who was doing the sexual harassment also had a disability. It was quite a serious matter, and the police decided that because they both had disabilities, that it was hard to know who was likely to be telling the truth, if you like. So that was a problem, and hopefully the Fair Work Commission would not be likely to go down that path because they don't have the standard of proof that police do, but it can be a difficulty when both parties have got a disability, particularly an intellectual disability. Are they able to give proper evidence? So that's just something to bear in mind. It doesn't mean for a minute that they can't do this, because I think there's a sort of view that sometimes people with a disability are not quite getting the story right, which is, we all know, probably not true. They do get the story right. Can I have the next slide, please? Human Rights Commissions, they're alternate dispute resolution. It'll be by agreement, and it can include compensation. It won't include a huge amount of compensation in those processes, but there can be other things that happen, like training for the workplace itself, changes of policy. all workplaces have policies about these things, but sometimes the policies are ignored. So change of policy might be good because it might not be a usable policy, or anything else that is necessary to be thought of. And settlement agreements are always confidential. So once they're settled, they're not public. So the whole workplace won't know what it was. It's confidential. And alternative dispute resolution is a completely confidential process. You cannot use anything that you've been discussing or settled or resolved in alternative dispute resolution as in court matters. So it's perfectly open, and it's a good thing to be really open about what you're talking about and why you're taking the position you have. You can file with the federal court, but if you can't resolve the complaint, but if you do that, you'll definitely be needing legal assistance. So it's not really an option. It's a bit of a last resort option, really. Could I have the next slide, please? So WorkSafe, they've got an advisory service. So it covers everything, because often it's about workplace safety, where the workplace isn't physically safe, and people are likely to get injured. So it can be all sorts of things. They could share information with the Equal Opportunity Commission, and they can refer to them where appropriate. WorkSafe can. They can send the inspector, as I said before, to the workplace. That's sometimes it's not completely disadvantaging people, because they can actually physically see, and that's easier when you can see what does this look like. You can describe to them, oh, I sit over there and someone sits there and they stare at me and they do all of these things. But if a person can't see what that looks like, then it's a bit difficult. So, next slide, please. Okay, you can. Okay, so if all those human rights commissions and things don't finalise what the problem is, you can go to legal proceedings in VCAT or the federal court. I can't recommend that you tell your clients to go to the federal court, because it's very legally complicated. Yeah, so if it's really serious and it's failed to settle, then you can go to a court or VCAT. VCAT's got a human rights list, so VCAT can make orders in the same way that the commissions can, resolve matters. VCAT can do the same thing, so that's possible. But the outcomes of legal hearings are usually about financial compensation, but they also have published decisions, and that can be a bit of a problem for clients who don't want their names revealed. It is possible in courts where, particularly in the case of sexual assault, where the decisions are published with pseudonyms, so that people can't be recognised. Types of compensation are hurt, humiliation and distress, because it can be really quite embarrassing, all of this, and the processes of taking it to your manager and them taking it further and you taking it further are quite stressful, and having to explain what's happened to you is humiliating, really. So compensation for lost income, if you've just not been able to go back to work, because you can't bear to be there. So that can be paid for, and any medical expenses that you've had to incur to cover what's happened to you. So some people might need to see a psychologist, so that will be paid for. On the next slide, thanks. So what's respect? You should feel respected at work. You shouldn't feel that people are making a joke of you, that people don't care about how you feel, that, you treat other people well, but they don't treat you well. That's not acceptable behaviour. Some examples are, can I have the next slide? No, well, we've gone. Oh, okay. This is the video with bad acting, apparently, if that can be played. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Hello, and welcome to our guide on fostering respect at work, where we'll explore the importance of creating a positive and inclusive workplace culture. In this journey, we'll also address a crucial aspect, feeling comfortable at work.
Respect is important in a healthy workplace. It's not just about being polite, but also recognising the unique strengths and contributions of each team member in a respectful environment. Everyone feels valued, leading to a better workplace.
Working together is like playing on a team. We all have different skills, and when we bring them together, amazing things can happen. Talking and listening to each other is super important.
Recognition and appreciation go a long way in fostering respect. Take the time to acknowledge your workmates' efforts and accomplishments. It can be a simple thank you in a team meeting or a great job for a job well done. It's like giving them a high five, but with words.
Now, let's address a serious matter, feeling comfortable at work. It's essential to recognize and prevent any behavior that can harm the well-being of individuals in the workplace. Some examples of being uncomfortable could be unwelcome advances, comments, or behavior that creates an uncomfortable or hostile environment in or outside the workspace. In our workplace, we are committed to feeling comfortable at work. If you witness or experience any inappropriate behavior, report it. Whether you're directly involved or a bystander, taking action is crucial. Address the situation and report it to your management. It is important to remember that this process is confidential, so you do not need to worry when you report the incident.
Thinking about other people's feelings is key to building a workplace where everyone feels safe and respected. Training like what you're doing now can help us be better employees and co-workers. When we consider others, we create an environment where everybody feels heard and supported.
So, let's sum it up. Being kind at work is simple. Be nice, work together, say great job, and help each other out. And if you ever see something not okay, report it. Together, we can make work a place where everyone feels good and respected.
Okay, obviously you could see examples. One thing that happens all the time is sending texts to people that are unkind, let's say the least. The text that was sent there was, your dress looks ugly. Now that's upsetting and offensive, and but people send texts all the time that are probably not appropriate. So it's just making sure that people understand, not in the workplace, don't do this. It doesn't help, and it certainly doesn't help your workplace get on. Also, at one stage, someone there was shouting or yelling at a colleague, so that's not helpful. You're not going to get good work out of people if you shout at them and make them feel like they're stupid. So, but there are positive things of recognising that other people did some good work and saying, gee, good job, or and acknowledging that together and working together sort of as a team. That helps. I think. Oh, sorry. I'm just conscious of the time. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay. Villamanta is a community legal centre. There are 52 community legal centres in Victoria, I believe, and we're a statewide service. So we help people with legal problems. We're not an advocacy service. We're staffed by lawyers, so we assist with legal problems. We work with people who have cognitive impairments. That's really intellectual disabilities, acquired brain injury, autism. There's quite a range of things, but generally those are the disabilities our clients have. They may have other disabilities as well, which is quite common. Our lawyers can help you with legal problems, and we're a free service, so it doesn't cost anyone any money to speak to us. Could I have the next slide? Thank you. So these are the people these are our sort of intake priorities. People have a disability and a disability-related legal problem, particularly those who have a cognitive impairment. So for us, if the person can't contact us, friends or family can, but we only work for the person with the disability. Now, they may not be able to give us detailed information, and that may be coming from a family member, but we still will understand that there is a disability, and that it's stopping the person from giving us really detailed information, but we're still working for that person with a disability, not for what a friend or a family member is trying to tell us, because it may be in conflict with the person with a disability. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so we can help you understand if you have a legal problem. It's quite common for people to not really be sure, do they have a legal problem? What is the problem? How to fix it? They don't know. So we're wanting to help people. So particularly with people who are working in Australian disability enterprises, and they want to understand their legal rights, they can contact us. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah. These are some of the things we can help with. Money, financial abuse, often people who have not state trustees, but administrators appointed, or they might have a power of attorney. They're being abused. Their money's being used by the person for their own benefit and not for the person who's actually doing the work to earn the money's benefit. People telling me what to do, that's guardianship. They're saying, I'm going to get a guardianship order to tell you what to do, where to live, who to see. That's not acceptable. So we can help with guardianship. We can appear at the tribunal on both of those issues. Someone's telling you how to spend your money. No, if you want to spend your money in a particular way, it's your money. You can do what you like with it. We live disability accommodation. There are lots of issues about disability accommodation and services that are supposed to be available but are not really. The whole accommodation situation is quite complicated, so we can give advice on what particular accommodation is it and what can be done to improve whatever the situation is. You might be having problems with your support staff who are not doing what they're paid to do, and they're not doing what you want them to do. And the other one is the NDIS, which is just a huge complication for everybody involved in it at the moment. So we can assist people who are being refused either access to the the supports, or people who don't have the right supports and are wanting to change them but are finding it's not really happening for them, and feeling respected at work. Next slide, please. Okay. Accessibility. We make sure that we speak with you in a way that works for you. Many clients have sort of speech impediments, I suppose, but we're used to that. We can speak to them. Often we like to go and see every potential client in person, because that way you get a better idea of how they communicate and what they're trying to tell you. Just on a phone call or a video is not really sort of getting you very far at all. You don't really understand what are the issues for that person. So Villamanta lawyers always go and speak directly with the person. That may have complications because we're a statewide service, but we try and get about as far as we can when we can. Confidentiality, everything is confidential. So we don't tell anyone else unless we're told by you that you want us to. And we only work for you. We do what you want. This is the client. We don't do what other people think ought to be done for you. We do what you want. Next slide, please. Any questions? I'm conscious of the time.
Thank you, Carolyn. That was fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Villamanta is such a great resource for our advocates to use to work alongside advocacy and the legal issues that a lot of our clients have. I've got one quick question before we move on to our next presenter. What you mentioned things like the Fair Work Commission, WorkSafe, the two human rights commissions that we have. What would you say that the quickest and best course of action for a client, that an advocate might have a client with a disability who is facing this kind of issue at work and the workplace isn't doing very much? What would you say the best and quickest course of action for an advocate to take to support their client to get a good result?
Oh, it depends on what the problem really is. Much as I think if it's a dangerous situation for whatever reason, then that can be because it's causing major stress, or for someone who's feeling really bullied by the harassment, getting WorkSafe to come and find out what's going on here, sort of gets the management and everybody else paying attention. And I think WorkSafe is a quicker option. Fair Work Commission will act, but it's a bit slower. And, stop harassment order, that still needs the cooperation. I mean, it is an order, but it needs the cooperation of the management and the parties, everybody really, or it won't stop, will it? So the other thing is, the human rights commissions, that's not such a dramatic situation because it is a round table discussion really. It's not too ghastly. It's exhausting, but it's not horrible. And that sometimes resolves the issues. Everyone has a chance to have a say and comes to some sort of decision about what will happen.
Yeah.
Now, that might be that the other person who's causing the problems has to leave the organisation, but, it's a softer way to do it. I wouldn't recommend any of the court processes because they're slow and they're very legally complex. So, that just makes an extra level of difficulty for whoever it is going through it. You can do it, but it's very stressful.
Yes. I remember supporting a client back in my day when I was advocating, supporting a client through something similar. It is very, very stressful for the person involved, so I can really understand that. Yeah. Thank you for that. Is there any questions for Carolyn before we move on to the next person? No, well, thank you very much. It was really, really, really interesting, and we can follow up with any further questions after the session also.